increased 310% over the last 20 years. 310%. So last session's increase of 26% was no aberration. It was no fluke. This is a pattern. So let's compare that to the population growth of Texas, which we know is exploding, and the rate of inflation. If you combine over that same period, that same 20 years, the increase in population growth and the rate of inflation, it's 139%. So 310% versus 139%, those of us who are very, very good at math understand that that is unsustainable and we can't keep doing it. Now, nowhere is that more evident than last legislative session when we had the baseline budgets of both the House and the Senate coming out and not addressing transportation and water. Those are two primary core constitutional functions of state government. Now, mind you, they blew through an $8 billion surplus and spent about $4 billion of the rainy day fund and spent 26% more. That's why we have to care about spending in the state of Texas. Now let's talk about debt for just a minute. Texas leads the nation in transportation debt. In fact, we have more state debt on our books than the U.S. Postal Service. I say that across this state, and I say it over and over for a reason, and we saw some of the results on Election Day, because we have gone into districts to drive up the negatives of incumbents who needed to be fired, and we fired some of them. Okay, so now, we've talked about that. Now, also, Texas is second in the nation, and this is the next focus. I had a meeting yesterday with a young man, Jess Fields, from Texas Public Policy Foundation. We will likely have our first meeting in April. I need to talk to Ashton about this. Have him come to a presentation on local government. Local government is key because Texas is second behind New York and ahead of California in local debt per citizen. That is a problem. That is a train wreck waiting to happen. It is in the future is going to gravely harm the economy and the future earning capacity of our future generations. Okay. So now, thirdly, we depend way too much on the federal government. The state of Texas is 11th in the nation in dependency on the federal government, federal funds to balance our state budget. Federal funds make up 35% of our state budget revenue. 35%. That is not a healthy posture for the state of Texas. Why is that so? Let's connect another dot. The mess that's going on in Washington, D.C. has to finally one day completely unravel. Do we all agree? Are we on the same page on that? Okay, so here's Texas sitting here depending on $69 billion in our state budget to function. Now let me just say this. If some of our moderate to liberal friends down there thought they were going to have to do without a tenth of that, they would be screaming. We're simply saying, as constitutional conservatives, don't we need to start having a conversation in Austin about what it would look like if we could not depend on getting those federal funds to the tune of 35% of our state budget? Don't we need to have the conversation of what would that look like? Well, up to this point, there has been no conversation about that. That's why we're saying around the state, Texas, the state of Texas, spends too much, it borrows too much, it depends too much on the federal government. Okay. The headlines. Let me see if I can get this baby to work here. Okay. the headlines. The BBC today said, Texas, reports of the Tea Party death have been exaggerated. The Texas Tribune, after 5 years, Republicans still loving their tea. Some of them did. Some of them were spitting that out on election night. New York Times, Tea Party in Texas sees silver linings in GOP primaries. Another in the Texas Tribune, the Tea Party in Texas is far from weak. And the Wall Street Journal, Tea Party shows continuing clout with primary wins. And actually, I'm hoping to get that article from the Wall Street Journal because Nathan Koppel, who wrote that article, interviewed me, and I interviewed with the New York Times and some others. I get a chance to do that. First of all, let me explain to you why it was incredibly important for Tea Party and grassroots leaders in the state of Texas to distance themselves from Steve Stockman. Because John Cornyn, Karl Rove, the big establishment, big government GOP wanted very much to wrap his ethics violations and all the stuff going on about him exposing people's personal credit card information so that it could be hacked. I mean, all that sort of thing. We can't have that hung around our necks. Now, Politico and Slate and some of the others are trying to judge the strength of the constitutional conservative movement in Texas by what happened in the Cornyn race and what happened in some of the congressional races, for example, in 32, where we had Pete Sessions being strongly challenged by Katrina Pearson. Well, Katrina didn't pull that out, but what she did is she softened up the target for next time. See, that's what we have to do. If you're going against a long-term incumbent, somebody that's very much establishment, got a lot of PAC money, got a lot of power behind them, powerful committee chair, you have to have people that will run and will try to drive up the negatives, not making up anything. If you look at Pete Sessions' record and you see that he is the man that is holding up a select committee on Benghazi, Pete Sessions needs to go. Okay? So what Katrina did is she went in there and her team, they softened up the target for next time. We have to have some people who are willing to do that. Now, on that front, John Cornyn didn't break. I think maybe some are showing, I think the state numbers show that he was under 60%, a hair under 60%. That's pretty doggone good. I think it sends a message. And yeah, I know 6 years is a long time. Yeah, it is. 6 years is a long time to send somebody back to Washington that you believe is not representing you and is at the same time knifing the junior senator in the back every chance he gets. Okay, I get that drill. But here's the deal, guys. As I've been telling you since I first spoke to you, this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. This didn't get this way overnight. We aren't going to fix it overnight. And you just need to pray every single day that God has enough mercy still left for us that he gives us some time to save Texas. Okay? So, in the lieutenant governor's race, did I get it? Okay. We have Senator Patrick had almost 42% of the vote. And you'll see the votes there. Now, I know that everybody in this room didn't agree with our position on Dan Patrick. I get the drill. I've been yelled at. I've gotten the snarky emails. Okay, fine. I get it. I'm going to say this again. I'm only married to one person, and that is Ralph Fleming. God bless him. Have mercy on him. But I'm going to tell you, when you're sizing up candidates, you got to pick somebody. Okay? Dan Patrick is not perfect. Dan Patrick knows that we know he's not perfect. Guess what? I'm not either. Dan Patrick has a consistently strong conservative voting record. The Democrats hate his guts, and the liberal Republicans hate him equally as much. I would think that probably indicates that he would be a good man being the lieutenant governor seat. Now let me tell you, what we have to bust down in Austin is that 21 vote rule. It takes 21 votes to get any piece of legislature to the floor of the Senate for an up or down vote. The Texas Senate is where good conservative legislation goes to die, because we don't have enough Republicans. We don't have 21 Republicans. So somebody's got to run around and talk a couple of Democrats into saying, yeah, I'll support having that piece of legislation come to the floor. Dan Patrick, from the very time that he took office in 2007, has opposed that 21 vote rule. We've got to get rid of that 21 vote rule to get some things done. So, and we also need to have a lieutenant governor that does not pack all the committees with liberal Democrats and liberal Republicans. If you've got an appropriations committee, a finance committee in the Senate, and an appropriations committee in the House, whose conservative rating is a D, what do you think you're going to get out of there in the way of a budget? It's not going to be something we would support. That's why it takes so much doggone time butting heads down there trying to convince people to vote against it, to take a stand. There were 4 votes in the Senate during the 83rd legislative session, 4 votes against the budget. Paxton, Patrick, Campbell, Birdwell, period. The rest of them thought a 26% spending increase was jolly well fine. There are 19 Republicans. In the House, we had 30 House members vote against the budget. That is history making. Usually it's about 3. One of which would be David Simpson. Because as long as the budget has a bunch of corporate welfare packed into it, you can be sure that David Simpson's not going to be voting for it. So we are making progress, because I will tell you, when the establishment is told no by 30 smart aleck House members, we aren't voting for your budget, they don't like it. So what I'm telling you is that we have to stay on it and stay on it and stay on it. And thank God the people in District 6 spoke loud and clear that they don't want to send a blank slate to Austin to have the establishment write on it. And I'll tell you this, I am not going to be forgetting who was behind the character assassination on Matt Schaefer. Right. It is one thing to differ on substance of policy and legislation. It is one thing. And to have a myriad different ways to try to solve a problem. That is where compromise comes in, is how you solve a problem. It is quite another to call a man who went to Austin one session a career politician and to say that he was a sellout to special interests. Really? Let me just take a minute here to talk about Tim Dunn. Tim Dunn is a very wealthy oil man in West Texas. Tim Dunn is an American citizen, and as far as I know, he made his money the good old-fashioned way. And he is absolutely eligible and free in the state of Texas and the United States to spend his money any jolly well way he wants to. And if he wants to write a check to empower Texans so that they can get conservatives elected to office, fine. What about their labor unions? Yeah. Now I'm going to tell you, Empower Texans is just like just about every other group except us. Because I have to tell you, I am not going to try to juggle a 501c4 and a PAC. I mean, I would have to have hired staff to help me do that. Because you can get yourself in a whole heck of a lot of trouble trying to juggle money like that. I don't advocate it. Not going to do it at the level we are now. But Empower Texans and Eagle Forum and Texas Right to Life, all those organizations have two branches. One is an advocacy branch. They talk about policy and they talk about issues. That's out of the 501c4. That is legal under the Federal Revenue Service Code, as far as we know today. The other wing is the PAC wing. The PAC wing is the wing of the organization that endorses and all that sort of thing. So it is perfectly legal for Empower Texans to put out a scorecard and that sort of thing. Now, whether you know it or not, Michael Quinn Sullivan is fighting for free speech in the state of Texas because he's about to go to trial, probably over all of this. And he has also filed a lawsuit against the Texas Ethics Commission. So I am telling you that all these people that go, oh my gosh, did you know somebody, you know what, Empower Texans sent XYZ $90,000. Oh, horrors. It takes money to run a race. It takes money to do that. So you just be careful about who you've decided is the enemy in some of this stuff. It takes money. Okay. Attorney General. Ken Paxton came out on top. He goes into a runoff 11 points ahead of Dan Branch. And oh my goodness, let me tell you a story that I was told by a very nice man who called me and said, JoAnn, thank you so much. I appreciate Grassroots having a voter guide. He says, because my wife we're sitting there at home and we're watching TV, and here comes this commercial, Dan Branch, sitting around a dinner table with his family, and they're holding hands, and they're saying grace, and they're praying, and he's all God and country and prayer and schools and all that. And he said, my wife looked at me and goes, you know what, honey, that's who I'm voting for. And he said, no, you aren't. Grassroots America says he's a liberal. Now, I can't tell you what the content of Dan Branch's heart is, but I can tell you that he is very much a lieutenant of Joe Strauss, and he has a liberal voting record. Okay? And God loves some liberals too. I'm not saying he doesn't. But I'm just saying, you don't want to send somebody that is an establishment liberal to the Attorney General's office. You just don't want to. So please, tell your friends, don't believe every commercial they see. Now with, did I not advance this?
Point the other way.
My pointer stopped. Bob, can you do it for me? Just advance it one slide. Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay, Attorney General, you can see the difference there between the state figure in Smith County. Now I'm going to try this one more time. My battery may be up. Here we go. Okay, Glenn Hager, and when I checked this morning, this vote count was still in progress. He is so close to 50% that he may avoid a runoff. But you'll see the figures there. And I just have to hope and pray that Glenn Hager turns out to be a good comptroller because he's got a liberal voting record too on fiscal issues. He's a D. He is a D.
What about the Medina polls?
Well, let me tell you about Deborah. The state figure of 19%, she didn't break 20, but she was leading in all the polls.
Right.
I don't know, and I haven't drilled down to see what the early vote difference was across the state, Bob. I haven't looked at it that closely, but I will tell you, for somebody who had no money, Deborah did amazing, and I'm going to talk to Deborah, want to give her a few days off, But Deborah would be very helpful to us in the Liberty Movement if she would come in and work with some of us and help us and get the backs of some of our legislators down there and come down and help us. I think that would help Deborah very much. It would help her get better known across the state and people be able to see who she is. Now, for the really fantastic stuff, we had 3 challenged Tea Party conservatives in the House. That was Jonathan Stickland from Bedford, Matt Schaefer and Charles Perry. They all had the pro-Strauss lobby and the establishment groups gunning for them with strong Tea Party support. And I'm telling you, this is hand-to-hand combat, folks. Stickland won by 65% of the vote. And he had the Parents PAC. I could write a book. Parents PAC are not just these sweet little people out playing in the park with their little kids and walking them to school every day and doing, you know, taking cupcakes to class. That's not the Parents PAC. The Parents PAC are these big government people like H.E.B. Charles Butts and people like that they don't want charter schools, they don't want school choice, they don't want any of that. That's who Parents PAC is, okay? So, Parent PAC and all of these big groups, the big Realtors PAC and all that came out against these folks. Stickland won by 65% of the vote. And if you all don't know Jonathan Stickland, I'm going to try to get a panel of those guys to come over here for a meeting. If you don't know some of those guys from the DFW area, you're missing a treat. I mean, they are absolutely fearless, and they're the kind of people that if we can keep them in the House, and they can get to know policy and legislation very well, I'm telling you, we are growing a team of leaders that will one day run for the statewide offices and run for Congress. See, Politico and Slate and all those organizations, all those, you know, left of center media keep saying, well, you know, y'all just don't have the candidates to run. And I said, yeah, but you just watch. In a few years, we're growing some. We're growing some. And it's in that freshman class. I am telling you, do you not think that some of those guys and a couple of ladies, I want to see some more conservative women in the legislature, because you're talking about people who can get down to detail. Women can, can't they, Sharon? So we're going to grow them. So that's why we all have to be behind them and keep them there so that they can mature in office and get statewide name ID and get some experience, and then they will be the fighters that can help do some of the same things that Ted Cruz is trying to do. And in the state Senate. Okay, this is fun. 24-year moderate Republican incumbent Senator John Corona, the most liberal senator, Republican senator in the Senate, was defeated by Don Huffines. I mean, you talk about shockwaves. They don't know what's happening. And 12-year moderate Republican incumbent Senator Bob Dewell of Greenville will face a runoff with Bob Hall. Canton Tea Party, Bob Hall. I had a bunch of people call me Wednesday morning. They said, JoAnn, Bob Hall has got Bob Dewell in a runoff. I said, yeah, I know. They said, well, how did he do that? And I said, well, he's got some really radical, rabid conservatives on the ground in all of the counties in that district. And they went door to door, and I mean, they weren't going to stop. I mean, those people are so tired. In fact, it was refreshing for me because some of them are my friends that call me like, every time something happens, they got to call me and tell me about it. So they're the kind of people, So they were quiet, they were out working, they weren't telling me anything, and they were busy. And so, look at that. I mean, Bob got 39% of the vote, and he had no money. Bob Hall had no money. So now I told him the other day, I said, now watch out, because some people might be hedging their bets, and they're going to try to send you money, and be careful of hiring some of these flim-flam consultants that don't know what they're doing. And then Tea Party candidate Connie Burton. Connie is a friend of mine was on the Tea Party Caucus Advisory Committee with me. She is in a runoff with Mark Shelton. She got 43% of the vote, and that's the old Wendy Davis district. And she has been endorsed, full-scale endorsed by Ted Cruz. Because Connie was on the Women for Cruz team with me, and Ted remembers his female friends that went around the state with him. He does. Okay. Next. Strauss and the Big Austin lobby lost these Republican moderates to Tea Party supported candidates. Bennett Ratliff. Bill Ratliff's son and Thomas Ratliff's brother was defeated by Matt Rinaldi. Now, Matt Rinaldi is another Matt like Matt Schaefer and Matt Krause. I mean, you talk about somebody who knows constitutional, focused government, limited government, knows how to take that as an abstract kind of concept and make that apply to legislation. That would be Matt Rinaldi. And I mean, that he went door to door like nobody's business. Then Ralph Sheffield. Now, this was a shocker. Molly White is a pro-life advocate. Molly White has been in the pro-life movement for a long time. Molly just at the last minute decided she was going to file. She won. She defeated Sheffield with 54% of the vote. Now, they have a very strong Tea Party group in Central Texas, and so that is what helped her. Then Miss Toll Road. Miss Let's Raise the Gas Tax, Linda Harper Brown of Irving was defeated by Rodney Anderson, and Rodney got 53% of the vote. In fact, a lot of the big toll supporting type legislators were defeated this time. Terry Hall was doing a tap dance the other day. Diane Patrick of Arlington was defeated by Tony Tinderholt with 55% of the vote. And now this is a big one. Dr. Stuart Spitzer from the Brownsboro Tea Party was excited. They're brand new Tea Party. Hey guys, yeah. Anyway, defeated Lance Gooden. Nobody thought that could happen, and those guys worked. So what's next? We win the runoffs. We win the runoffs, guys. We have to work really hard. Now, there's this little whisper campaign going on that maybe Dewhurst will drop out. No. It's not going to happen. I told some folks who called me yesterday, said, well, why don't the Tea Parties all write this letter telling him to step down? I went, that's not going to happen. Those people are scared to death that they're going to lose their grip on the lieutenant governor's seat. They're not going to back off. And so then his people are telling him, go negative or get out. So I expect it'll be a very nasty race. That means that we have to fight hard. So I'm going to tell you, Dewhurst, I don't think he even came to Smith County. I wonder why. I don't think Dewhurst came to Smith County for this. You know, he didn't come to the candidate forum, and so, poor guy, I think he got 18% of the vote here. Wow. Anyway, the way to look at that race is about 72% of the people in Texas voted for somebody other than David Dewhurst. So, what does this mean? We are making advances. Now, I'm going to remind you of a statistic that I told you back, I think, when we first started the primaries. 1/3 of the voters in Texas self-identify as Democratic. 1/3 as traditional GOP, and 1/3 is Tea Party, liberty-leaning voters. Now, we'll tell you the exit polls showed that one half of the voters that voted on primary day said they were Tea Party affiliated. Wow. One half. So now, the establishment's paying attention, and I knew they were before we even got to the primaries, even got this close, got the results. And why? Because they all try to date you. I mean, you know, you're sitting there and you're working on campaigns and you got people like Dan Branch calling you, asking you to go to lunch and all that kind of thing. When he didn't have time for anybody, he never came to one caucus meeting. So, you know, they need to understand this, that we're pretty smart. We know how to read and interpret voting records, and we got the goods on them, so they're not going to fool us. Okay, so now I'm going to let you guys ask me questions. You can ask me a question about anything. If I don't know the answer, I won't make it up. I'll try to find the answer for you. How about that? Yes, Bob.
Why did we support a business partner of Bush at the expense of Wayne Christian?
We didn't. We had a dual endorsement.
I know it was dual.
It's a dual endorsement. Malachi Boyles, because we interviewed him, Malachi Boyles is very smart. He's very conservative. He is was highly recommended by Matt Krause and the conservatives over in the DFW area. And also we supported Wayne Christian. So that's what we did. See, here's the deal. I'm not ever going to know who's business partner with everybody else, Bob.
Well, it was a Wikipedia thing, and, you know.
Well, okay, I know, Wikipedia. Okay, anyway, but good question, Bob, and you gave me a chance to answer it. Becky.
John, Malachi said when we interviewed him that he had withdrawn from the business. He had made a blind trust for money he had earned in the past. He would have no decision-making at all in that business.
Right. Thanks, Becky, for remembering that. I was probably sort of, by the time we had interviewed that many candidates. And?
Are we going to make a concerted effort to help Jason Ellis?
Yes, we're going to make a concerted effort to help Jason Ellis. Before I blew in the door, did you all recognize the candidates? You did? You didn't? Jason, come up here. Gary.
Well, thank you. It's good to be walking again. So, it'll be a
Climbing
race,
stairs.
runoff race. I want to thank everybody. Y'all were a big help. I told you at the banquet last week this is where we wanted to be. In the county court of law race, I'm running against a lifelong liberal Democrat who contributes to Al Gore, Bill Clinton, Democratic National Convention. He opposed Louis Gohmert, for goodness sakes. So, but he's telling everybody he's a Republican, and our paper didn't do us any help letting people know that he's a Democrat, as you might imagine. And I don't think the people know that, but they're going to know that. All right? And yes, we're going to get him. We're going to get him, and I think that we're going to be doing a lot of door-to-door. We're going to be. I need your help. I need your support. Letter writing, because there are plenty of folks out there that when they find out the truth, they're going to be upset. And we've already got support from Mr. Radican, who's a friend of mine and very conservative. And we're working on other supporters in the other campaigns. And again, I want to thank you, and you're going to see plenty of me, and we're going to be working real hard through May. Thank you.
We're going to do everything we can, and we're going to do everything we can to help all of our candidates.
And you're going to have to help me write a great letter to Mr. Hurley.
I will do that when I get back from my little trip. I'm going on a little trip to visit my parents and hopefully get in a small moment or two of fishing. Okay, now they're telling me I need to ask Dardine.
Hang on, Dardine. Being a retired teacher, I'll bet everybody can hear me.
That's pretty
Do you
good.
think Smitherman will come out and endorse somebody in that?
I don't know. I hear his camp is pretty bitter about the whole thing, and there are a lot of people that are very emotionally invested in that. And by that I mean, you know, there are times when, and that's why I try to tell people, look, you have to strip emotion out of evaluating candidates, okay? You need to look at what they stand for. And that means you don't want to support somebody just because they're a friend or just because they're a friend of a friend. I mean, you have to look beyond that. And so I think some people were very emotionally invested in the Smitherman for the specific purpose of opposing Paxton. And I just don't know how that'll go, Dardine. I just don't know.
Thanks.
Should we encourage JoAnn Stovall to run for the Texas Senate to gain notoriety among conservatives before he tries for the U.S. Senate again? Yes. I'm encouraging JoAnn. He is a strong voice for the conservative movement. JoAnn needs to, I could use his help down in Austin. Because I bet you that JoAnn could probably get 2 or 3 people to listen to him, don't you think?
Yep, he's fantastic.
And so, anyway, yes, I absolutely am. And see, that is one of the reasons why I encourage people that if they believe they have this something that's, they need to run. They have to run, and they're being called. I believe it's a providential call. Now, sometimes people are called to run for office, and they're not necessarily designed to win. I hope you all get that. Sometimes you are doing it because you are the one to bring out the issues. You are the one to pave the way for the person who is going to defeat that incumbent. Sometimes that, and I learned that a long time ago, otherwise every time your candidate didn't win, you're in the floor of your bedroom crying your eyes out. Like the first candidate I ever helped was a school board candidate, and he lost by 25 votes. And I'm telling you, I was devastated, and I was just crying my eyes out. My husband came in and he goes, what is the deal with you? I said, well, we just work so hard, we work so hard. And he goes, you know what, I just don't think, and I said, I think I just need to stop. I don't think I need to do this anymore. And that was about 18 years ago. My husband said, I think you better just get up, because I think God has a call in your life to do this. And I don't think he's going to let you up. So I think you better just get up, learn from this experience, and go on. So that's my story.
What do you, based on Tuesday's results, what do you think is going?
We can't hear.
Give him the microphone.
I tried.
Okay, Rick, take the microphone.
Based on Tuesday's results, what do you think is in the future for our Senator Eltine?
Let me just say that Senator Eltine has never had to run a race with all of Smith County in his district. And now the reddest part of Smith County, the most conservative part of Smith County, is in that district. Now, whether anybody likes it or not, Eltine is rated as a moderate.
No, not really.
And so all I gotta say is, he's gonna be running, in 2 more years? I'm just thinking that he ought to have a really conservative 84th legislative session and have some innovative ways to stop the spending, stop the borrowing, and stop the reliance on the federal government. Otherwise, I think he probably already is gonna have a strong challenger. I hear that. So I think that we may have a really big battle here. And it'll be interesting, because here's the deal. Nobody deserves a walk-on. Everybody ought to be challenged. It makes you sharper. Somebody, yes, sir.
Yes, quickly, with God's help and with boots on the ground, we did it in Henderson County and Kaufman County. Also, are y'all backing T.J. Fabi in House District 10?
I am personally,
Okay.
Yes, I am
Because
backing
we need,
T.J. Fabi.
if anybody has any relatives or anybody over that way, we'll need some help for that.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm taking a look at that, and I'm going to present it to our board, because here's the way the rules work. If it's on the ballot in Smith County, our board makes a decision. The board last cycle gave me the permission, I guess you'd say, for me to use my discretion to personally endorse people running for the Texas House or Senate that were outside of the Smith County ballot. And T.J. Fabi is somebody that I absolutely am supporting. Now, I think it was from his wife, maybe, a Facebook post asking why in the world we didn't support him. Well, I sent in my endorsement to T.J.'s campaign. If they didn't use it, that's their problem, not mine. Because I can't check on every candidate around the state. The ones I do check on are enough to run you nuts. So, anyway, so I'm just saying, yes, we're going to support TJ. I think he would be an absolutely great legislator, and so TJ's it. Yes, sir. Somebody else? Anybody else?
last night,
Bob.
L-Type was at Hideaway Lake. I put it on YouTube. He sounded better than he's ever sounded, but I know so. I know it ain't so.
Let me go on record and just say, it is amazing what a 62% thrashing will do to make people have a better attitude. Okay.
Any commentary on George P. Bush?
No. Really not interested in that. I hope he does a decent job, but I'm not interested in him going up the political food chain. I've had just about enough of that. I think it's time for real Texans to take the lead. Yeah.
JoAnn?
Yes.
I think we really need to get behind this Senate District 2 on Duval. He's raised $369,477. That was $15.49 per vote. His opponent, Mr. Bob Hall, he had $12,409.02, or 65 cents vote. He can be beat, guys. We need to give all the support he can
yes.
get.
And let me remind Joel about who Bob Dewell is. Bob Dewell used to represent the northwest corner of Smith County, Senate District 2, okay, before redistricting. And Bob Dewell was who we got when we finally defeated David Kane, right, Ashton? Because we tried for years and years and years to defeat the very liberal Democrat David Kane. Well, okay, in that district that leaned Democrat, you're going to get a moderate Republican that'll win in a district like that. But Dewell has been there long enough to where you can barely tell the difference between Bob Dewell and a Democrat. And he is the one who authored Senate Bill 303, and I know there's a lot of controversy about it, but it's the end of life, the advance directives and all that sort of thing that kind of cuts the family and the patient out of making decisions. So Bob Dewell is part of that bunch, but he needs to be defeated because he's not with us on fiscal issues at all. I mean, he still insists on calling the budget a conservative budget. I mean, even after 26%, I mean, his only response to that is that we don't know how to do math very well. His is.
If there's anyone here who's kind of a bond wonk, we have a school bond election coming up for Marshall ISD. It is $150 million for about 27,000 people. I consider that a little bit excessive, and I think they need to go back and try again. If anyone can help me with some technical issues, I would really appreciate it.
There is a lady in Chapel Hill ISD that almost single-handedly defeated a bond package whenever it was. Tammy Humes. Tammy Humes is the queen of defeating bond elections. And so, Tammy Humes, and if you will send me an email asking me for her contact information before I leave town tomorrow, I'll get it to you. I'll get it to you if you'll send me an email.
Tammy's going to be busy fighting the next round on that same thing that Chapel Hill's going right back at it again.
Right, and I think Tammy's also going to run for school board. Yes. Thank you for that, Tim. Okay, anybody else? Well, yeah, things happen. Okay, so let me tell you, where does grassroots need to go from here? When I get back, I'm going to be working with Robin Hood Bryans. We're going to take footage, outtakes from the December 6th dinner with Ted Cruz and Louie. And we're going to put together a TV commercial and a video to be sent out. And we're going to work on a budget to present to the board so that we can start raising the profile of Grassroots America. Because I'm going to tell you what, our voter guides were all over the county. I mean, I got so many calls from people going, I didn't even know you were here. And I'm going, okay, we've been here for 6 years and people still don't know we're here. So we need to be louder. So what we're going to do is now we've got a little money, thank you, Lord, for every dime of it. We're going to do some things to advertise Grassroots America. Because we've got to get to the point where we can fight a we can put on a multi-pronged offensive and win all of them. You know what I'm saying? The military people, that's how my mind works. We've got to be on offense at all times. If you're on offense, you got people hemmed up in a corner and you don't let them out. Okay, that's what I tell Bob Hall. I told him from the very beginning, you get Bob Dewell on defense and you keep him in a corner and you never let him up. And so that's what you do. And you can do that if you've got the tools you need to operate. Now we can do amazing things with amazing volunteers. That's the best way to do it. And for every group, I told the Brownsburg group this, I believe, and I told the Battleground Texas Tea Party the last Sunday. They didn't have very many people come out to their event on Sunday at the foot of the San Jacinto Monument, and they were all despondent over it, and they were apologizing to me for driving all the way in the horrible weather, and I got stuck down there because there was ice up here and I couldn't come home. And they were apologizing to me, and I said, look, here's what you pray for. Ask God to give you every person you need to accomplish the task He wants you to do. Every person. Not one more and not one less. That's a Gideon principle, right, Pastor? That is the Gideon principle of winning a battle. You don't sit around thinking about what you don't have. You be thankful for what you do have. And the same thing with money. You don't sit around going, oh, I don't have any money. There's nobody here to help me. Nobody loves me. You don't do that. You say, Lord, I want you to give me the amount of finances I need to accomplish the task that you want us to do. Not one penny more and not one penny less. And you know what happens at the end of that? He gets the glory.
Right.
And I'm going to start preaching at y'all in a minute, but I'm going to tell you, that is what you have to do in life. I don't care if it's politics. I don't care if it's trying to solve a family problem, a business problem, or whatever. If you think you've got all the answers, you're headed for trouble. You need to ask God for wisdom. And I ask everyone here to please pray for Matt Schaefer and pray for all of our elected officials, those that you do agree with and those that you don't. Because Scripture tells us to. And to be obedient is better than sacrifice. So we should be obedient to pray. Because God changes people's hearts. We don't. I can't put on somebody, the call that I have on my life, I can't put on somebody else. I've tried before. Doesn't work. You're going, can't you just do this one little thing? Oh, no, you know what? I really can't do that. Okay, well. You have to you have to do what you can do and figure out what that is and do it with all your heart. And so what you can do is pray. I ask you, please do that because that moves mountains. I've seen that. It absolutely moves mountains. So I think unless we have more questions, it's going to be time for me to go pack for my trip. Thank y'all so much.